Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Two Asian Blokes Podcast, a podcast where we talk about Asian pop culture, films, TV shows, comic books, anime, music, food, video games, whatever we're feeling at the time, really. My name is Dan with H. With me, as always, is my co-host Tavi. Hi, Tavi.
Yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this might be one of the episodes. Might be in the first week or the second week or the third. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we're wanting to do a horror-based movie each month, or horror-based content, I guess. So we didn't do that last year because we just were shit at planning. So
we're still shit at planning, but we're giving it a go. We're giving it a go this time. One spooky movie every week. Is that what we're doing? Well, October.
That's a plan. Yeah, something spooky,
and maybe some additional stuff. Who knows?
Yeah.
Ooh, spooky season. So we are eventually going to talk about the movie Talk to Me. Australian spooky movie came out
right.
August this year. Full disclosure, at time of recording, we have both just seen this movie, so it's still fresh in our mind. We're not talking about it in October we've forgotten everything about it, you know. So these are our fresh reactions after watching this.
I saw it a couple of weeks ago, but it's a pretty memorable film. It's pretty easy to remember.
Good movie.
But yeah, it's kind of like one of our kind of pivots to talk about some Australian cinema.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this movie, I think it has an Asian person in it. I don't know where the Philipous come from. If they're like
Greek,
islanders
mate.
or
they're Greek.
Oh, they're Greek. There you go.
Oh,
so
Greek
they're not
descent,
Asian at
anyway.
all. Yeah. They are YouTubers, and they've made like probably the first YouTubers to make like a good, I guess it's not, I wouldn't even classify it as a YouTuber movie, but it's.
Well, I don't know. We'd have to fact check that. I feel like there's been some Asian movies that have probably been made by Asian YouTubers. Wait, what's that channel with all the Asians on it that kind of make short films that you hate?
Oh, are you talking about Wong Fu?
Yeah, Wong Fu.
I don't hate Wong Fu.
You hate him.
I just dislike their content. That's all. I just don't really. Yeah,
I reckon they've probably made a feature, right?
They've made a feature. Probably. I can't think of it. I've seen some of their shorts, and they're.
You hate them? Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't like them. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, Wong Fu. Even though, they are pioneers of the Asian American YouTube landscape. Just not really a big fan of the work. This is not. I'm not even sure I should be saying this on like just burning all the bridges before I can even get big. But that's all right.
It's all
because
right.
I'm a controversial figure, man.
Yeah,
I am. Yeah,
you tell it how it is from your point of view, a very jaded and cynical point of view.
I don't really. I don't really give a fuck about. Yeah, I mean, like we like break all the YouTube rules. Like we use cunt, and we like just talk about horror, and like YouTube hates it.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Doesn't matter.
That's why we will always be indie.
Yeah,
unless we sell out. And if you're listening back on this in like 10 years from now, once we've sold out, just remember how we were.
Just wait for our apology video. Just like where it's kind of like it's very like obviously like an iPhone like filter, and it's not like using cinematic mode. It's using like a really low like compression rate decode.
Is that the formula for an apology video?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just thinking back like a Jake Paul's one.
Yeah.
Or not, whatever the polls, and it's like it's clearly like a webcam, and it's like there's no mic to it, so it like you can kind of hear slight peaking, and it's just like I think that's when it's like I guess it's kind of the most genuine. Because it's like raw,
going for like unstaged, right?
Yeah, because like if you're filming an apology, it's like you get the lighting right, and I gotta like
I've seen those as well.
I've
seen people do those kinds of apology videos, like very still looking really good kind of videos.
Yeah. I think they're like I think there's a bit more of a production quality. I think there's a kind of an art to the apology video now. You gotta like start off with a big sigh, like.
Yeah,
and then it's like
you gotta show the remorse. But before we talk about Talk to Me, do you want to do our recurring segment, Tavi?
Yeah,
What
let's do
have
it.
we been watching?
Cue the music. Woo! Yeah. Yeah. Is that how it goes? Yeah.
What, you never listened to it?
No, I've listened to it. I just don't remember. Sorry, Risky. But
Risky put a lot of work into it, man. This guy is full of disrespect today.
Bad. I'm an apex predator, bro.
Yeah, you are. All right, what have you been watching, Darby?
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of really good movies, but I'm not going to talk about any of them because I recently watched what I think is probably the worst movie I've seen this year by like a long, long way as well. Like, it was one of the few movies that made me angry, I think.
Oh,
just
wow.
like thinking about it, it's just like, wow, like who the fuck greenlit this? Like, what? And how did they convince people to get onto this
Just
movie?
looking it up now, Tavi. Oh, it was Wong Fu Productions. How about that? What a coincidence, Tavi.
It wasn't Wong Fu Productions. But the movie does have someone who has appeared on a Wong Fu short.
What movie is this, Tavi?
It features our boy Simu in the movie Simulant.
Now,
So-
I asked you whether this was an intentional thing, and you're pretty sure it's not, right? It's just
not.
coincidence.
So, Simulant is a 2023 Canadian science fiction thriller. And I'm not even going to tell you the plot. It's basically discount Blade Runner.
Okay.
It's Alibaba.com, Wish.com Blade Runner. And it's just like, yeah, there's like these three arcing storylines. One is about this couple. One of the wife is played by Jordana Brewster, and I'm just going to call her wife because I can't remember the character's name. And the husband played by generic good-looking white dude. And the storyline is that like the husband died in a car crash, and in this world they have like basically these things called simulates, and they're kind of like replicants in Blade Runner. They're just designed to like help people do shit. But then there's like pleasure models and whatever, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And there's like differing versions of simulates. There's like the cheaper version where they like look like robots.
Okay.
And the robot like practical effects like look really bad. It's like they look like someone who is wearing a mask, and it's like the direction is act like a robot, and they do like that really awkward like stilted movement.
Yeah.
But it's like it's just not good.
Right.
But then there's like the other simulates that look like humans. So that arc is basically that Black Mirror episode with that guy from the Star Wars movies. I forgot his name. The Irish dude from Ex Machina. Sorry, I forgot his
Whatever
name.
his name is, that guy.
Yeah. But like the husband's memories get uploaded and blah. He's supposed to be the protagonist, but then there's Sam Worthington, who I didn't realize was Sam Worthington. Until I'm like, this guy. Yeah, I'm like, this guy looks
Of
awfully
Avatar
familiar.
fame.
Yeah,
and others.
Avatar fame. Yeah, he plays like kind of like a Blade Runner. I don't know what they call
Man,
it.
that guy's fucking lucky he has Avatar.
yeah.
He's in some
And
pretty horrid movies.
Yeah, he is.
Australia's own
and
as
he
well.
plays like a cop whose like son has been like killed due to neglect of like a simulate. So he hates simulates. And then there's Simulu, who's like a rogue engineer who like escaped from the company that makes simulates and is trying to set them all free by breaking their like protocol to like not follow people's orders, like humans' orders. So this movie is an hour and a half, and already there's too much going on. And it's like, I actually think the premise is pretty cool.
No, it's Blade Runner, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's Blade Runner. So I like
that does
this
have
kind
a cool
of
premise.
thing. Yeah, but like the thing is, like Blade Runner is a slow burn film, right? So it's very atmospheric and it's kind of like a noir. So what this movie could have done has been like a bit more action orientated, I guess, more plot driven. It is plot driven, but it is like it's the most boring movie I've seen in a long time. Like, for a plot driven movie where the characters aren't anything interesting and the acting is not particularly good, you need to have action. Otherwise, you're just going to bore your audience.
Yeah. And I mean, like Sam Worthington and Simulant can both do action. We've seen.
Yeah. I mean, like, Jordana Brewster's in there, and like, I'm sure she can do action from like Fast and Furious fame. So there's like some, I don't know, I think most of the budget went to these actors because like it's supposed to be like a science fiction world, but it just looks like something that you just shot like in the neighborhood on an afternoon. Like, there's just like little touches. I think they were going for like kind of the minimalist science fiction feel, but it didn't quite work. The production design was just not there. It's a bad film. It's boring. The message is quite obvious, and it's like the ending is unnecessarily grim. Like, it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and it's a complete like character assassination of like the main guy. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that crappy ass movie. What have you been watching?
Well, I guess sticking in the realm of sci-fi, I finally got around to watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably much better than Simulant.
Yeah, have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. No, it's good. I mean, like, the Guardians movies have always been, on the like kind of top tier of Marvel films for me. I don't think I'm alone in saying that. Like, especially the latter Marvel series of movies. Like, I recently watched Ant-Man Quantumania as well, which was not very good.
Oh yeah, that movie. Yeah, I talked about that movie and edited it out of one of our episodes because I'm like, this movie is a waste of time.
Yeah. It was a bit of a waste of time, but luckily I was on a plane, so I had time to waste. And yeah, like even the TV shows, like not all of them are awful, but there are awful ones. They're either middling to awful, I think.
Yeah.
So for this movie to come out at this time, it's kind of like, on the one hand, like it's a good representation of Marvel films, I guess. But on the other hand, it feels like maybe the last good thing that they might do, Because you haven't seen it, but you probably know that this is the last of the Guardians movies, right? This is the cap off to a trilogy. So it's kind of tells the end of the story of this particular group of Guardians of the Galaxy. And it feels like an ending as well. Not just an ending of this character arc, but also an end to... I guess
the characters,
maybe good Marvel stuff for a while. Like I haven't seen Secret Invasion, but I've just seen a lot of like terrible things about that show. And yeah, like it feels like, due to various circumstances, like writer strikes, for example, as well as maybe potentially criminal activities of one of their main antagonists, Jonathan Majors,
right.
And that whole situation. Like, we don't know where that's going at the moment. Like, it's
I know of it, but I haven't been following it. Like,
I think the latest I heard was that maybe he's innocent, but who knows? I mean, it seems like Marvel is in a little bit of trouble. The MCU, I should say. The Guardians of the Galaxy movie is quite good. I enjoyed it a lot. One of those movies where I watched it on streaming and I was like, oh man, I should have watched this in the theater, actually. A great looking movie. The chemistry of the cast is always on point. And James Gunn at the helm, so like this is his kind of baby, I guess. So he's definitely put, there's definitely been a bit more money put into it than something like Ant-Man Quantumania. A bit more time, I imagine, as well, to make it look good. And yeah, the story is pretty moving for a Marvel film. Yeah, I guess being the end of this trilogy kind of adds a bit of emotional weight to it.
Yeah. I just heard a lot about the scenes with Rocket, and that they're quite heart-wrenching, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you are sensitive to animal cruelty, I think tread lightly with this movie, because there's some stuff in there that's a bit ooh, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, but this is an M-rated movie as well, so
yeah, there's an F-bomb in it.
Articles. Oh, really?
Marvel's first F-bomb, apparently.
Oh, really?
The MCU's first F-bomb, I should say, yeah.
Oh, wow. There you go. James Gunn just left, didn't give a fuck. It's just yeah, F-bomb, that's it. Contract's over.
It's a well-placed one as well, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing that I really like about this movie as well is that the action is quite violent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's a few fight scenes, and they're not fighting people. So they're fighting a lot of the time they're fighting creatures. So they're able to make it a bit more sloppy and a bit more grisly, I guess. There's a lot of gutting and decapitations and stuff. And because they are creatures, the blood is lime green or whatever,
green
so they can kind of go a bit more ham with it. And yeah, I think James Gunn is quite good at that kind of gross out stuff as well.
Yeah, he definitely does it with his the Suicide Squad and some of his other action films, and yeah, he's got a background in horror, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that stuff was fun to watch. Yeah, good to see a Marvel film that's actually fairly violent.
It's actually good. Yeah.
It's not about electric lassos and non-lethal shit or whatnot.
It's we're going to destroy them in the most possibly nicest way.
Yeah.
Oh, don't kill it. Don't hurt anyone. It's I can imagine that battle scene, one of the goons knocks someone. Are you all right, man? Sorry.
Yeah. What are you doing, man? You said we're going to burn the village down, boss. Yeah, but you don't have to be so violent about it. Jeez. This guy.
Yeah. That movie. Yeah, that movie is in a bit of a development hell. It's not going to be released until after the next Avengers movies, whenever that's going to be made.
Shang-Chi 2?
Yeah, Shang-Chi. Yeah, I guess we'll talk about that in a few years.
Yeah, who knows?
We're in our late
30s. Maybe it'll never come out. A lot of things are in flux at the moment, let's just say that.
Yeah, Marvel's definitely, Marvel needs a hit, yeah. But I guess we should actually talk about some scary stuff.
Yeah. Spooky movies.
Let's talk about Talk to Me.
Talk to me, girl. You know that song?
The music soundtrack? Yeah, I know that song. Yeah.
That song by Justin Timberlake,
Yeah, that's classic. That's old song. But there is no Justin Timberlake in this movie.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah, do you want to give a quick synopsis?
Yeah. So this Talk to Me, as we mentioned, Australian production. It's quite an interesting production because, as you said, it was directed by Danny and Michael Philipou, who
of RackaRacka fame.
Yes, some might know as RackaRacka, the YouTube channel that made. Back in the day, they made some delightful short videos, very super hyper-violent videos, which both you and I quite enjoyed.
They gave birth to the FBI open up meme.
Yes, very good. One of my favorite videos is probably Luke Skywalker versus Harry Potter. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, I don't remember that one, but yeah.
Good stuff. If you haven't checked them out, check out RackaRacka. Treat yourself.
Yeah, they're really funny. They're really good with practical effects.
Yeah, very high production value, right?
Yeah. I knew them most from their Ronald McDonald portrayal of him just like being a psycho clown. I like the I think they did like a Mortal Kombat one.
Yeah, Mortal
And then,
Kombat
like,
in just an Aussie house. Yeah.
and like they're like were using like their little brothers and stuff, and it just looked really like or like kids around the hood who are like obviously very happy to be part of the production, but it just looks really funny when they're like slamming like a 10-year-old through like a chair and just like ripping his guts out, and it's obviously like in a very kind of camp and I'd say very easily digestible way, because it's so like over the top.
Well, sure. I mean, they weren't demonetized by YouTube, so I mean, it's that kind of level of gore where it's silly looking, so it's fine.
It just looked really funny. I think there was one where it's just like, I think it's just a wrestling one, and it's just like, I think I'm not sure if I'm getting the storyline right, but like I think one of the little brothers or the little kids is kind of like in the clip like sort of terminally ill, and they kind of like like giving him like a dream, and then they're just like doing all these wrestling moves on him, and it just looks really funny.
Yeah. So pretty comedic stuff. So interesting movie for their directorial debut.
But
at the same time, it's not, kind of makes sense. Like you said, there's a lot of like they've got quite a practical effects driven background in their YouTube career. And I think like that carries over in this film. Like there's a lot of, without spoiler, well, we'll do this movie non-spoilers first, and then give you a spoiler warning before we start spoiling it. But yeah, like there are bits where people are crashing through objects and stuff, and it all looks quite practical.
Yeah, and there's some like gore and violence effects in this film, but it's quite a restraint movie, I would say. It's not like particularly violent.
Oh yeah, compared to their YouTube videos, it shows a lot of restraint. Yeah,
I mean, I would say that this movie is quite a good like gateway into horror. If you wanted to discover horror, this might actually be like a good film for it. It's definitely easy to watch. Yeah.
So without spoilers, just a quick synopsis. So it's set in Adelaide. Basically, a bunch of kids have a stone hand that allows them to commune with the dead. So if you hold the hand and say, "Talk to me," you can speak with one spirit chosen at random. And then if you say, "I let you in," that spirit inhabits your body. They explain that if the ritual is not stopped before the 90-second mark, then that produces this risk of the spirits wanting to stay in the real world. So unfortunately, due to circumstances, one of the characters goes over 90 seconds briefly, and then shit happens from there.
Yeah. So it's basically the protagonist of this film is Mia. And like her character is kind of going through the grief and the loss of her mother. So the thing I liked about this movie is that there is a surprising amount of like heart. Like it can get emotional at times without being too, I guess, in the well, I like this realm, but of the elevated horror realm, I guess. It's not, I wouldn't see this as like a wanky movie either.
So this was distributed by A24, right?
Yeah. And they're like the masters of like elevated horror, I guess.
Yeah. Did you find that it was like an A24 film?
I think in terms of the way it looks, like the lighting, and I guess like just the kind of softer colors of it, quite soft, but still like a bit of contrast. Like, yeah, I think it does look like an A24 film. Maybe not as thematic or not as weird, I guess.
Yeah, it's not as weird.
Yeah, but it feels quite indie still.
I think the trailer made me think that this was going to be a weirder film. But, I mean, that said, it's like obviously a very competently made horror film. But, I just found it a bit like kind of straight, I guess, for an A24
straight.
film. And I guess like they didn't make it. Like this film was first premiered in the Adelaide Film Festival, and then at Sundance, and then basically there was like a bidding war for the rights to distribute this film, and A24 ended up getting it. So I mean it's like I said, it's not a very weird film. I think you're right. I think it is a good gateway into horror. Like, it is quite spooky. There are scenes of like demon possession that are done quite well, and there are spooky entities in there. You don't really see that much of them, but like, it's done in a way that kind of creeps you out a lot.
Yeah. But they still kind of look a little bit like goofy. They kind of look like a Guillermo del Toro, like ghost. Yeah, like wet and like, like bloated corpses. Yeah. What I really liked about this movie is the depiction of Australia, because like it's very much an Australian suburb without like ham-fisting it in.
Yes.
Like, you don't really see anybody sitting down like with a mullet watching AFL and eating a meat pie and like with the super ochre accent. Like it's very much like, I can picture this neighborhood like when I was going to high school in Sunbury and going to some of the gatherings. It's like, oh yeah, this is definitely like, it feels Australian. Like, there's kids who kind of having like house parties, but they're not like as insane as American house parties or how American films have depicted house parties. There's like, there's alcohol and drug use, that's just kind of the Australian thing, which is like, I'm not endorsing any of that. That's just kind of like what I've seen.
Yeah, it's just Australia.
And just like the just the people as well. Like, everyone looks very Australian. Like, everyone kind of is like quite diverse.
Yeah,
but it's
right.
like quite naturally.
Yeah,
diverse,
I think it shows quite nicely like the diversity of Australia. But kind of in a subtle way, I guess. Like, there are a few scenes where, like you said, there's parties and there's gatherings, and you see a couple of Asian people in there. One of the, I guess, like key supporting characters. They're from New Zealand, I guess, and there's an Indigenous Australian in there, and the main character herself, her dad's like African American. I'm pretty sure. Right.
Yeah. He's got like an American accent.
Yeah. So
it feels naturally Australian. Like, it doesn't have that kind of like that cringe factor Australian. Like we've talked about it a few times when we've watched some like Australian dramas on TV, and it has that like really shitty like overexposed look. Where it's just like, and it's just like really forced humor. But this one just like, oh yeah, this looks like Australia. And like, even there's a bit where there's like a kangaroo that gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's like something that happens like when you drive late at night on those like rural roads. My dad had an experience like hitting a kangaroo like years ago. Like, they hit like a dead kangaroo on the way home from like Echuca, I think, late at night. And like, it fucked up the car and had to get like repaired and shit.
They're very
so it's actually quite common. They're not they're made of like full muscle, man. They're fucking so.
And if you drive enough in like, not even regional Australia, just like in the suburbs, if you drive enough like out in the outer suburbs, I guess you might hit a kangaroo. They're pretty common.
I mean, there's kangaroos near my house.
There's a few like Australian like subtleties, I guess. There's a bit where like they like need to consult the previous owner of the hand, and they just find him at a bus stop, and he's wearing his like high visibility workwear. And I'm like, that's a very Australian scene right there.
It's like tradie style. Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely like, it's probably one of the more realistic depictions of like young Australians. Like, they all listen to like Aussie hip hop. There's a very strong like Australian hip hop soundtrack to this movie, and it feels like quite organic.
What do you think about the soundtrack?
I'm not a huge fan of Aussie hip hop. I don't listen to it that much. So it's not bad. Like, it's Aussie hip hop has kind of come. It sounds like it's come a bit of a way, because like when I think of like Aussie hip hop back in like the mid 2000s, I think of like super bogan accents, like fucking Adelaide, Australia,
hilltop hoods, and that, right?
Hilltop hoods. It's very like you can tell that they're like Australian, but I think like they're kind of changing the accents a little bit, maybe to.
I don't know about that. The first time like one of the songs popped up in this movie, I was like, oh, that's a bit jarring. But then I think I settled into it somewhat, and yeah, it just became, you know, organic part of the movie at a point.
Yeah, it fits the universe because it's something that those like kids in the film would probably listen to normally, and I think it's quite popular. And I appreciate the exposure of Australian musicians. It might not exactly be my cup of tea normally, but like, yeah, that's good. Like, good on them for like kind of showcasing Australian music, but like without it being just like fucking Jimmy Barnes all the time. You know? Just like, yeah.
Because that's all we have.
Something different.
We've got Jimmy Barnes
all we have is
and
Jimmy
Aussie
Barnes
hip-hop.
and Midnight Oil.
They call it skip hop.
Hip hop, yeah. Aussie hip hop. But yeah, so as I said, like I think the performances in this movie are pretty good. Like, yeah, I think the strong point of this film is not even really in its horror, but it's also like its emotional core. Like, I really like kind of was with the character of Mia and her like want for like to see her mother again, because like the thing that kind of sets off one of the spirits is like her desire to see her mother. But like actually going a little bit back on that, like there's a pretty interesting sequence where, because they kind of use the hand in a sense that it's a drug, because like it's got who's the character, Haley, and her brother, who kind of share this hand around at parties, and they kind of know the rules, and then they kind of share it around, and like people kind of get possessed by the ghosts and stuff, and then when they like rip the hand off, like they're like, this feels amazing. So there's almost this kind of like theme of like drug use, I think.
Yeah, I think it's pretty explicit that this is probably a metaphor for teens using drugs, right?
For ice.
Maybe dealing with grief as well through drug use. Yeah, definitely. Like the fact that the hand makes you feel really good once you use it, and Mia kind of gets addicted to using it as well. And then it drives you mad. It makes you not be able to recognize friend from foe. And usually ends in stabbings. So I think it's pretty blatantly a metaphor for that. But I think it's done in a way that, you know, it's not kind of rammed down our throat, I guess. There is a bit of subtlety to the message. Like, you could watch this as just a straight up horror film and appreciate it as it is. But yeah, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, then there's also all that stuff too.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to see like how that theme was kind of incorporated into the film. But it obviously starts going awry when I said, like I think one of the younger brothers of like the her best friend like wants to get in, but they're like, nah, like they kind of try to tell him not to do it, but his sister is like, nah, don't do it. But then it's like everyone else kind of eggs him on, so it's like peer pressure, which is kind of like very, thinking about it now, is a pretty like, I'm not gonna say it's a specifically Australian thing, but it is definitely like a thing at parties when you are like, when there are substances involved, whether regardless of like illicit or alcohol, there's definitely like that culture of like, oh, come on, do it, you pussy kind of thing.
Yeah.
So like, he gets involved, and then it's like, I think the spirit is like kind of mimicking Mia's mother, and then she's like, no, let it go on for a bit longer, and then it kind of goes on for too long. And then the brother starts freaking out, and he
ODs on ghosts.
He ODs on ghosts, basically. And then like, I mean, it is a little bit of a spoiler, but like he kind of
should we get into spoilers? I mean, I think it's a good film. I think you know, the budget for this one is like $4.5 million, and they've done a lot with that.
So I think it's made like 30 million so far, so it's definitely made its money back.
I reckon probably a sequel will happen. This could even be a franchise, I reckon.
I think it is. I think there's a sequel in talks. Hopefully it's not like butchered to the ground like the Saw series, because I really enjoyed the first Saw, and then there's too many of them. I haven't watched any of the other Saws. I just like, it's kind of like, its own like.
That said, I wouldn't
tale.
mind on an Australian-based Conjuring franchise. You know.
Oh, there you go. I'm just looking at the wiki, and it just says like they have revealed that they've completed principal photography on a prequel film.
Okay.
So I guess it's just kind of like how the hand was probably like discovered.
Yeah. I think the beauty of this film is that they've kept the lore kind of vague enough where they can kind of go in different directions with it in the future. But also it opens up like... it opens the movie up to discussion. Like everybody that's watches it might have a different interpretation of the events of the movie. Like I'm not talking about the themes and stuff, but more about like, you know, what exactly is happening with the ghosts, I guess, and like how this happened to Mia and the other characters. Because apparently everything in this movie, like they've laid the groundwork for everything in this movie to mean something. Like even the graffiti on the hand apparently means stuff. Which, you know, it's a good setup for a franchise.
Yeah.
A franchise that will eventually become overbloated and not as good anymore.
I think my only kind of criticism of this movie, and this might even just be like a personal taste, is like I didn't find this movie particularly scary, I guess.
Okay.
It kind of like I don't know if this is just me kind of used to horror, but there are a couple of jump scares, but there's nothing that really kind of lingered in my mind. So
yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's not overly scary. Like, I think you are a bit desensitized, but so I think if you're like not used to watching horror movies, you can probably sit through this without too much uncomfortability. And I think there are spooky parts. Like I was kind of on the edge of my seat for some of it, but yeah, you're right. I think the horrors and the scares they don't linger with you. I think what lingered for me was more like the harrowing aspects of like I guess the implications of the ending of the film and stuff.
I think in terms of showing, because we do see a bit of the horror. I guess this is where we'll talk about in the spoilers section. So, but yeah, no, I definitely would recommend this movie. It's definitely go support like good Australian, content, good Australian film, I should say.
Yeah. I think it's like it hits that sweet spot where it's not like a blatantly Australian film. It's just a good film that happens to be set and produced in Australia,
Yeah.
All right, shall we talk spoilers?
So I think I will say like you do see the horror of what happens when the brother suddenly like has gone too far and is like kind of like ripping his eye out halfway, and then like he's smashing his face onto the desk. So this is more like the kind of usual RackaRacka stuff.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see. I think that was probably the most horrific moment in the film. But in terms of the other horror that happens, it's more just like kind of like you are just seeing Mia being haunted a bit and like being tricked. Like basically the spirits are kind of like tricking Mia into being into believing that the spirit is her mother.
Do you think there was any point in the film where she did actually communicate with her mom?
Yeah, that's the thing, because the way that the film ends, it's kind of like who is kind of part of the spirit realm. Because like you assume from what the spirits are showing Mia throughout the film is that none of them are particularly good, and they're just trying to build upon their, I guess, community of ghosts or spirits as part of their hands.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, actually it's pretty ambiguous. Like, I don't know, like you're kind of led to believe that the ghosts had been tricking them all along just by kind of being able to read their minds, because like basically the ghosts, they say like, I let you in. So the ghosts are actually going inside their host. So they're obviously seeing all their memories and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was led to believe that she never actually contacted her mother. But like jumping to the end of the film, Mia kind of sacrifices herself to save like the younger brother.
Riley.
Yeah. And then she ends up being like a spirit herself. And she just doesn't know it. So it's like, I still think she's a good person at this point, but does like being a spirit suddenly like change her? Will she be corrupted as well? So,
Well, she just seems
not,
confused at the end, right? Like she doesn't know what's going on. And
because there's like
right.
a party in Spain or something, or like,
I think it's
I'm not
Greece.
sure what the language.
It's Greece
in Greece. Okay. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and then like she ends up being like a spirit herself. Yeah.
So it comes full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be her mother, and her mother's just like being kind of corrupted by the spirit realm. So yeah, this might be something explored in the sequel. Yeah.
If there was any point where she did actually talk to her mum, it would have been the very first contact when it goes into Riley, right? So Riley calls her me and says, like, I'm sorry and whatnot. But then like something happens and then Riley starts bashing his head against the shit and trying to pull his eyeball out, as you said. So like that kind of implies that maybe her mum was there, but then she lost control of the body or was overtaken or something. But then again, it could all be a trick. I think it's probably all a trick. Like my theory is that so Mia gets possessed at the start of the movie. She lets a spirit in and she holds on for a little bit over 90 seconds, right? And like during her possession, she looks at Riley and the ghost inside her says something like, oh, he's going to split you in two or something like that. So my theory is that the ghost that went inside Mia and the ghost that went inside Riley were in cahoots. I think probably the ghost that went inside Mia like scouted out like the memories of her mum and stuff and then maybe communicated to the ghost that went inside Riley and then, that ghost showed Riley Mia's mum and, created that whole trick. So I guess the idea was to get both Mia and Riley into the spirit realm or like get their souls or whatever their end game is. I'm not entirely sure what the ghost's like goal is. They kind of work together to make Mia want to kill everybody in her life, including Riley. So, but I think like it's ambiguous enough for everybody to kind of have their own interpretation. And like if the RackaRacka brothers want to explain it explicitly in later movies, they can, but I don't think they have to necessarily. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the sweet spot that this movie falls into.
Mm-hmm. I like the portrayal of Sue, the mother.
Oh, yeah.
Not Mia's mother.
Miranda Otto, yes.
Yeah. She's very, like, stereotypically Australian white mother. Just, like, a little bit harsh, but also, like, very lenient. Because they're, like, because they want to have the party. They're trying to organize a party at, like, her place when she's gone. And then she's like, what's this about a party? And they're kind of, like, acting coy, like, what party? I don't know what party. And she's obviously like, they're obviously caught out, but they're just like, she kind of just lets it happen anyway.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I definitely know some people from my school who had those mothers that just kind of like, just let kids do whatever they want.
She's kind of doing the best she can as well. I mean, it seems like she's like a single mom. I love this this trait that has been like adopted into Australian movies where parents would just swear at their kids, just like they just don't give a shit. They just swear at their kids. Like we saw it in The Strangers as well. Not The Stranger. Joel Edgerton. But yeah, it's a good portrayal, I think. And yeah, even the portrayal of suburbia, as we mentioned before, and of Australian kids. Something I like about this film is that I didn't necessarily dislike any of the youths in this film.
Yeah, that's true, actually. You're right.
Usually
because
I
they usually do that a lot in horror films. Yeah, it's like they kind of make them unlikable. So when they die, it's like you feel less bad.
Yeah.
But this movie doesn't really have a body count.
And even though Mia makes some terrible, terrible decisions throughout the course of this film, like they all do, I guess. Like using the hand in the first place is a pretty fucking terrible decision. Haley, she gets this hand off the previous owner whose name is Duncan. And at the start of the movie, you see Duncan like stab his own brother and then stab himself in the face. Like who is thinking after that happens that this hand is a good idea to use this hand, you know?
Yeah.
Only irresponsible Australian teens would think that,
I guess. It's just like the same with like again, it's the whole like, maybe, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but like you've seen what happens to people who are, addicted to ice or heroin and some of the shit they do.
Like I guess all the evidence is there to see, but they still make that dumb decision to use it.
Yeah. So it's just like you kind of just get caught in the hype. You want to feel good, and the thing getting possessed makes them feel good. It gives them a high, and I think that's just like.
And you think you're special. You think you can handle it because you're better than everyone, I guess.
Yeah, but you're not. And then now you're all dead. Well, not all of them. Only Mia.
Haley lives.
And Haley lives. Yeah. Yeah, they kind of like leave the film pretty easily. They're just like, oh, yeah, sorry, man.
I did chuckle a bit when they were just like, good luck. And then they just leave for the rest of the film.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't see them again. That's right. Yeah. It's kind of like, yep, that's it. Good luck. Yeah.
Something I liked about this film is the portrayals of like the exorcism scenes. Or not the exorcism, like the possession scenes. So there's like a montage like at the party that you mentioned where they're kind of like taking turns being possessed, and the way that the scene is framed is like a party montage kind of like there's like an upbeat soundtrack and they're kind of dancing around and having fun. It feels like something you'd see in like one of those Seth Rogen films where they're doing a bunch of drugs and having a good time. But it's about demon possession, basically. So it's kind of like this horrific act, but the way it's framed is like a party scene. I found that to be pretty fun. And you kind of get swept up in the fun as well. I'm like, oh yeah, this is fun, what they're doing.
Yeah. I like that scene because it's quite different. You don't really like see that a lot. So it's kind of like, it reminds me of like, I was watching the commentary to like my Trainspotting DVD like a while ago. And like the thing that Danny Boyle put in that film is like he depicts the fun that using heroin is. Yeah. And again, I don't endorse drugs. I don't use hard drugs at all. But I'm just quoting what Danny Boyle said. So he depicts basically like why people would do heroin and how it is fun for them.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like within this film, it's like they are depicting that aspect of like the fun of using the hand. So, and it's quite like interesting to watch. But yeah, as with most things that are illicit, it's like it's fun for a little bit, but there are some very dire consequences. And that happens to both in this film and in Trainspotting as well.
Yeah. That's really well done, I think. The ending is fucking grim though. So like you said, like the voices inside me are telling her to kill Riley, right? So she's about to push him onto the road. But then,
well, this is before the spirits convince her to like accidentally like stab her dad.
Oh yeah, that was pretty funny. I found it funny that he was still alive after that.
Yeah, because like the friend like just I was gonna say that seems kind of funny because I thought he was dead, but she just like kind of rocks up and he's just like, he's just like in a corner, just
bleeding out,
wounded. But he's probably not dead.
No, you see him at the end. He recovers, but so. The spirits tell her to stab that guy and then tell her to go to Riley's hospital room and kill him because that's the only way to save him from whatever's inside him. So she's about to push him onto the road, but then she either has a change of heart or the sister rocks up in time and pushes her onto the road. You don't really know definitively, I think. But yeah, Mia ends up getting killed, but she doesn't realize straight away, right? And I didn't realize straight away, to be honest. Like,
I kind of had a suspicion because like it's a horror movie and it usually ends kind of grimly when she starts like seeing like the ghosts and shit. And she's like, people kind of ignoring her, I guess. I'm like, oh yeah, she's probably dead.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah, it kind of confirmed it. Yeah.
But this is one of the most, like, for me, it was one of the most harrowing, like, portrayals of death in a film. Just that idea of, like, not really knowing what's going on and then seeing life, like, continue around you, but the lights are getting turned off, like, one by one. Like, that to me is terrifying. I don't know. I was just like really unsettled by that imagery at the end of the film.
Yeah. I wasn't really. Maybe that's the more horror aspects. That's me being jaded by a lot of horror films. But like, in hindsight, just thinking about it, it's a pretty like grim depiction of death. Because like, it's just kind of like seeing your family and just seeing life go on for a little bit, but then like slowly disappearing.
And just being left in like a dark void, right?
Yeah.
And then that brings us to like the final end, which is like a candle is lit, and then Mia moves towards the candle, and that's when she kind of realizes that she's on the other side of this hand now. She's in the spirit realm. She's one of these spirits. So, what did you think of that ending?
I thought that was kind of like. I thought it was kind of humorous. Just like, she's just part of the spirit world now. It just kind of comes full circle. Like,
I feel like it was a little bit tonally out. Elements and like just the way that it ended with her death. Like, it was quite grim, and then it was like but at the same time, I could see it just being way too tempting to end the film like that. Like, I kind of had an inkling that that's how it was going to end.
Yeah, because there's not really much you can do, like, as a person against ghosts. There's not like, there's no Ghostbusters to help her out or anything like that.
Well, I mean, like, do you think that if she had have just been able to wait it out, then they both would have been fine?
I don't know. I don't know how the ghost through album works. Like, I feel like she'd just be forever tormented.
Because Duncan's brother says that the longer they stay in the real world, the less like hold they have on the real world, and you kind of see that Riley recovers, like once Mia has died.
Yeah.
Because Mia only goes over for a couple of seconds, and she gets pretty fucked over by that couple of seconds. Riley's was considerably longer, but he was still able to kind of recover eventually. So do you think that like if Mia had have been able to kind of like just stick it out, then they both would have been fine?
Yeah, I think probably, but like she, I guess, just was not in a position where she could stick it out. It was just like, maybe she had to make a choice then and there. It was probably an extreme choice, but like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, it's probably something to do with drug parallels as well. Maybe if you go cold turkey long enough, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people just can't, I guess, and then bad things happen.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I've got too much more to say about this movie.
Would you watch another one of these?
I probably would. Yeah, like I want to support like good Australian cinema and good like horror Aussie cinema as well, because there's been a couple. One of them we might cover in another episode, but like, there's like the Babadook, which came out quite a few years ago now. Jennifer Kent. That's kind of like the golden standpoint of Australian horror. I actually think I like this movie better than the Babadook. 'Cause I didn't find the Babadook particularly scary either. So like it's definitely like, this one is kind of a bit more entertaining, I guess. Yeah. And it's like depictions. It has like very similar themes, but like I think this one is done in a bit more of an accessible manner. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see more of these. I think also just the level of thought that has been put into the background lore, I think. It's promising. Apparently, they've got like a whole catalog of lore for this world that they can work off.
Okay.
So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah, so that's good. That's a good thing to have a plan. Yeah. So yeah, make a few more of these that are like diminishing returns, and then like just descend into spin-offs, I guess. That's usually the horror format, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I mean, this movie, it probably won't be as successful as like Saw did, but this movie's come out when like movies like Mission Impossible 7 is like failing, and then like obviously, you know, Barbenheimer has come out and just like taken the fucking box office by storm.
Yeah.
But for what it is, the litty indie horror film that could, I think it's doing all right. So I look forward to a sequel. I'll probably watch it, and we'll talk about that when it comes out then. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. But guys, what did you think of Talk to Me? Did you enjoy it? Would you watch more of these kinds of films? Let us know. You can you can get in touch with us at twoasianblokes@gmail.com. You can join our Facebook group to be part of the conversation, or you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at twoasianblokes to see what we're up to.
Yeah, and look forward to some more spooky content in the coming week.
Yeah, we're just gonna watch some scary movies, right? What's that? I won't spoil it, but yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah. All right.
All right, guys. Until then,
guys.
see ya. Happy Halloween and all that. Bye.